Tangaras have served Sydney well over the last 30 years, but with their end of life approaching at the end of the decade, the current government has committed to replacing them with locally manufactured trains. Since the election, little mention has been made of these replacement trains officially, and I'd like to share my own thoughts on them, as there's more to this story than meets the eye. The Tangara trains were ordered in 1986 to allow the final withdrawal of the infamous Red Rattler standard stock trains, which first entered service in 1925. 455 carriages were built by Gunainen at their Broadmeadow works, first taking passengers in 1988. They represented a revolution in train design in New South Wales. Gone were the days of stainless steel boxes on wheels. The sleek design of the Tangaras made them, visually at least, one of the nicest trains on the network even today. The original order was for two subclasses, the T-set for suburban running and the G-set for limited outer suburban services to Wyong, Port Kembla and Dapto. These longer distance variants had passenger door controls, high-backed reversible seats, unlike the fixed seats of the T-sets, as well as toilets and luggage racks. After the Oscars were introduced from 2006 onwards, all G-sets were converted into T-sets, with toilets removed. However, the luggage racks and reversible seats were retained. Since the 2017 timetable change, Tangaras have only been timetabled to run on Sector 1, that's T4, where they run almost every service, and Sector 3, that's T1 and T9, where they run some services. Until recently, their only use on Sector 2, broadly speaking that's T2, T3 and T8, was limited to a single 8-car set on weekends, but this has recently expanded to include two 8-car sets all week. The Tangaras have received extensive refurbishments over the years. Their current yellow appearance was progressively applied during the early 2000s, as well as the conversion of G-sets starting in 2009. In 2010, the Tangaras received an interior overhaul with new upholstery and colour schemes, as well as other minor modifications. More notoriously, though, was the disaster of the Tangara Technology Upgrade, or TTU, which started in 2014. The original scope of this project was to replace the original doors, install LED headboards, that is, front destination screens, to replace the seldom used split flap displays, implement a desperately needed passenger information system, or PIS, with screens and announcements, a new train management system, or TMS, priority seating, and finally automatic train protection, or ATP fitment, all of which was designed to extend the life of the units by 10 years and improve passenger amenity. This work was due to be undertaken by Gunainen's successor, UGL Rail, in Broadmeadow, with one 8-car set receiving the upgrades. The rest of the fleet was upgraded in-house by Sydney Trains as a result of issues with UGL's efforts, and as a result the headboards, PIS and TMS were removed from the scope. The programme is still underway. The current Minns government has sort of committed to replacing the trains when they reach end of life. However, according to Sydney Trains, this is still a way off, in the early 2030s. In the meantime, the TTU fitment of ATP in the form of European Train Control System, or ETCS, in itself a key recommendation of the Waterfall report, will allow safer operation over parts of the network which are fitted with the required trackside equipment, which is being progressively rolled out. So far, this only consists of what's known as Level 1 Limited Supervision, which always supervises train speed to ensure the train doesn't derail. However, only supervises a few high-risk signals, such as at the start of single-track running, where SPADs, that's a signal passed at danger, or red, could be particularly disastrous. This system is layered on top of the existing signalling and doesn't improve capacity, only safety. Later this year, however, ETCS Level 2 will be commissioned on the Cronulla branch and shortly thereafter on the Eastern Suburbs Railway between Erskineville Junction and Bondi Junction, delivered as Tranche 1 of the Digital Systems Programme. This much more useful system completely replaces the existing colour light signalling system with full supervision of line speed, virtual signals and turnouts, displaying all of this information on a new screen fitted in the upgraded cab. This system increases capacity, safety, reliability and reduces operating cost as signals can be removed. It also allows a much easier interface with automatic train operation when this is introduced in coming years, which will make journeys more efficient, faster, and more reliable. It's unclear as to whether the Tangaras will be fitted with ATO, but considering they will run on the first implementation of ETCS Level 2, I think it's reasonably likely. On a related note, a few visible features mean you can tell if a Tangara has been fitted with this new signalling system of ETCS. A new equipment cupboard behind the end cabs, courtesy seats and new emergency alarms, or non-ATP stickers on the middle cabs. These stickers are fitted as only the end cabs of 8-car trains are being upgraded, with cabs in the centre only used to rearrange trains within depots and yards and to be used as guard workstations. As for refurbishments, however, I think the future is less favourable. The Tangaras are not falling apart, yet, and spare parts are not yet a huge issue either, unlike the K-sets. The lack of a PIS or working headboards, and to a lesser extent reversible seats, are certainly inconvenient for passengers, but considering the failure of the TTU to deliver these, I doubt they'll ever be fitted. Sydney Trains has, and remember I say this as an enthusiast with no insider knowledge, appeared to adopt a strategy of keeping the Tangaras running smoothly, but not much more. Fleet allocation is another aspect likely to change. Rumour has it that in an upcoming timetable change, whether later this year or after that, all Tangaras will move to Sector 1, remember that's T4, perhaps displacing Oscars completely. I suspect as well that once the Mariungs, think the D-sets, come on stream, Tangaras will be pushed off South Coast local Port Kembla trains, especially considering that only the end cabs on an 8-car train will be fitted with ETCS, not the middle two, as mentioned earlier. It does make sense for all Tangaras to operate on Sector 1. It is well isolated from the rest of the network, operates out of only one depot, and has a much simpler operating pattern to the other two sectors. It also makes timetabling easier. If Sector 1 operated with only Tangaras and Sector 3 only Waratahs, timetables can be optimised to best fit the performance of each train, potentially saving a few minutes per trip. The current timeline for the Tangaras has replacement penciled in for the early 2030s, as reported by the Sydney Morning Herald last November. The original plan for replacement would have most likely been more B-sets ordered for entry to service after 2027, presumably through an exercisable option in the contract with CRRC, enabling further trains at a later date. However, a key MINS transport policy is opting for local manufacturing wherever possible, including trains, so that plan was ditched. The elephant in the room now is what will replace the Tangaras, and where will they be made? Personally, I would like to see the continuation of the Tangara aesthetic, with a flat angled front and curved upper deck windows. Surely we can figure out how to do that without them fogging. I should imagine the trains will be fixed 8-car sets with standard Sydney Trains cab layouts, but as for the passenger side of things, I'm less sure. There are arguments to be made for and against reversible seats, as despite the wishes of the travelling public to sit facing forwards whenever possible, amenities such as phone chargers, well-padded seats, and comfortable armrests are much more difficult with reversible seats. I also think that a 2+2 layout would be ideal for the busy T4 line that trains would operate on, being able to fit more standees in this arrangement. On top of interior screens, announcements and external headboards, I would like to see side-fitted boards like the D-sets and trams, so passengers can confirm the service without having to find a platform display. As for where they will be built, I see 3 options. The first is that they are built at either Downer or Gunainen, that's now UGL, in Newcastle. Downer built the Millenniums and fitted out the Waratahs there, and the Tangaras and Oscars were built by UGL in Broadmeadow as well. The second is that a foreign manufacturer partners with one of the previous two to build the fleet in a new factory, probably in Newcastle too. And the third is Alstom building the trains in their factory in Dandenong, Melbourne. That's where a lot of Melbourne's trams, including the new E and future G-class trams, were built, as well as the V-Line Velocity regional DMUs, and even New South Wales's Endeavours, Explorers, and the later built XPT cars. The difficult part of the replacement would be the power supply. I'll try to make this as interesting as possible and leave out all the boring technical stuff, so bear with me here. The main reason why the T4 only uses Tangaras for most of the day is due to the capacity of the power supply on the Eastern Suburbs Railway between the Erskineville Portal and Bondi Junction. When this portion was built in the 1970s, little consideration was given to the increasing power usage of trains, and as such, to maintain high frequencies in the peaks, low-powered trains must be used, and the Tangaras are a perfect fit. This is why you will never see Waratahs on the T4, for example. They simply draw too much power. Obviously, a Tangara replacement fleet would use much more power than the Tangaras do now, and in my eyes there are two ways to make this higher demand work. The first method would be to construct new substations, potentially at Woollahra, Woolloomooloo or Edgecliff, where the line runs in relatively accessible spaces. This would be expensive, however, as these sites are obviously not designed to house such high voltage equipment. The other option would be to install batteries on the trains, so that when running on the ESR, they can reduce the power they draw from the overhead. The batteries would be charged by regenerative braking and when on other parts of the network, and then the trains would enter a restricted power mode when on the ESR, relying on both the reduced overhead and onboard batteries. They could also charge at stations on the ESR where needed. This is a similar solution to the system being employed on Melbourne's new G-class trams, which need to overcome a similar problem. The better option of the two is obviously the first one, as it would allow any train to substitute onto the ESR whenever required, but as I've said, it would be more expensive. So that's all I have to say about the Tangaras for now. It will be interesting to see how this new transport policy of the Minns government unfolds, if at all, in the coming years, and of course so will the actual replacement strategy. I doubt anything will happen with this for the rest of the year, and it will most likely be on the political back burner for the next 5 or so years. Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do consider liking and subscribing, it really does help the channel out. If you'd like to see more videos like this, leave a comment and maybe suggest a video. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.